Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Health Leaders Podcast. Thank you for tuning in. I'm here live at the CNO Exchange in Nashville with Melanie Heuston, who is the Chief Nursing Executive at WVU Medicine. And today we're here to talk about a very innovative program that I'm very excited to see the outcomes from. So talk to me a little bit about the diploma-based or the hospital-based diploma program that you're working at. Give me the rundown.
Okay, well, we're very excited about it, and it's been a short 2.5 years in the planning, so it's been at the speed of light.
Yeah.
And we are starting West Virginia's first. It has been 25 years since they've had a hospital-based training program. We're calling it the Center for Nursing Education, and it'll be in a state-of-the-art facility. And like I said, we've been planning it only 2.5 years, which starting a program generally takes like 3 to 6 years.
Yes.
And so it will be a 21-month program where the students will come in with a handful of credits to start, and then they will have a full-time program, and then they'll be ready to, take their NCLEX and start working.
Yeah, absolutely. So what was the inspiration behind the program?
Well, the inspiration in part, largely was there's not enough nurses.
Yeah.
And when we did an assessment of the state and what was being produced, how many we needed as WVU Medicine, and that many schools were not filling all their seats. So we wanted to do something disruptive, if you will, or innovative. And we decided to create our own program. When you see an issue, try and fix it yourself, not instead of doing the same thing. And it was pretty controversial to do something like this. I'm getting lots of people that are excited, but people that are concerned about it. So that's the impetus, was trying to solve our own problem.
Absolutely, yeah. And what were some of those concerns, just out of curiosity?
Well, candidly, there were a lot of people that were worried that we're taking the nursing profession back, and that, the BSN should be an entry to practice, which I don't disagree with. But when you don't have enough nurses to take care of patients, the risk to patients and to access is very dramatic. And so, we've had some people say, are you sure this is the right thing to do? But yes, we believe we're going to build a quality program, but we also need nurses to take care of patients. There was a higher risk of not having enough nurses. And so definitely most people are clapping for us, but I was prepared for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you're saying, the problem remains one way or another,
right?
Like kind of no matter where the education comes from.
Right.
So absolutely. So what makes WVU's program different from traditional diploma programs? Because I know those maybe have not so great of a rap.
Well, the diploma programs that exist today, they're very good. In fact, we partnered with a school in Delaware when we created this that's excellent. The thing that I think is different than our program is we started from scratch. So a lot of the programs have been around historically. We took all the things, and I have to credit Dr. Tanya Rogers, who really, created this with a vision for me. So we created it in the way that we believe nursing should be taught today. And so it's contemporary, traditional nursing education with what we're calling a contemporary approach. And so we're trying to look holistically at the person and the supports that they need. And we've created like green spaces and, gyms and meditation rooms. And so I think what we're trying to do is really look at the whole person, what supports they need, and really immerse them into an in-depth clinical experience.
Absolutely. And you mentioned partnering. Why not partner with a nursing school? Like what kind of made you go this route instead of the more traditional partnering route?
Because it's a really different program. And we took a successful school, BB, in Delaware, and they'd been around for years. They're not the number one in the state of Delaware out of all the schools. They have 100% NCLEX pass rate for years, and they have lots of awards and accolades, and they've really continued to improve their program year over year. And so, when you create a diploma school, if you will, we're calling it a hospital-based, program, you have to create the infrastructure of a school.
Yeah.
So it's not just creating a school. You have to have a registrar and a counselor. And so we needed someone, if we partnered with another school, they have the infrastructure and it's different. And so we partnered with them and they helped us with what's the first things you need to do, what computer systems and their policies and procedures. And they just were very generous because they too wanted it to be successful. And so
Absolutely.
we were fortunate that they just opened their doors to us and helped us.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I love that information sharing. Because I
Yeah,
feel like
we're
that's,
colleagues.
that's key. Yeah, especially when we're all trying to solve the nursing shortage
Right.
together. So that's critical for sure. So how is WVU lowering barriers to entry for nurses who want to participate in the program? I've heard there's tuition reimbursement. Talk to me about all that good stuff.
Well, I think we're doing everything we can to, we've actually removed all barriers,
Yeah.
if you will. The tuition is 100% free.
Mhm.
So it's called a tuition waiver. So we give them 100% tuition waiver. And then over the course of 3 years after they work for us in a bedside clinical position, their commitment is forgiven. So it's considered almost a loan, if you will, but it's a tuition waiver. But not only that, all their books, all their uniforms, all their computers, and really a supportive environment where we're having a food pantry and so that if they want to eat there, we have a laundry for them to do all their uniforms
Wow,
and their
that's amazing.
laundry. So while they're there, and this most beautiful state-of-the-art facility with inspirational quotes and a fireplace in their lounge, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's 37,000 square feet. So this first class is just so excited. We just had them, in to see it when we opened did the ribbon cutting. But we're really looking at any way to reduce barriers for students and increase the opportunities for first generation students who nobody ever went to school. So there's lots, that is exciting about reducing social determinants of health, giving people gainful employment.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned the facilities, so if you want to take a second to brag about it, what are you the most excited about?
Quite honestly, in my career, I've never designed anything and been so proud of anything. It is absolutely a shining star. In fact, I said to my boss, the president, I said, it's almost too beautiful. And he's like, there is no such thing. I mean, it is, everything has been thought through. In places where there's no windows, they have space that, light in the ceiling that changes like with the circadian rhythm. Like every single desk, every single outlet, everything has been thoughtfully planned down to the detail. And we have space that will grow. We start with 24 students. That's all the state board will allow us till we prove, how we're doing. And we have to get accredited and do a few things. But quickly, we want to double that and triple that we have over 200 students in the building at one time. And so, of course, we have state-of-the-art simulation and virtual reality. We've actually built a nurses station that is exactly like a nurses station with the call lights and the supplies and the, medication administration carts. And so it really is something exciting. It is not your old traditional school. It's a very contemporary program.
That's amazing. Yeah. So how many clinical hours are the nursing students getting?
Okay, you're asking me that. I don't have it off the top of my head.
That's
It's a lot. Anyway, I should know that, but it's a lot.
For sure. Yeah, I attended your colleague's session at AONL like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And they had all that information. It was really impressive.
Yeah.
So,
No,
I'm very
they're
excited.
there's a lot of skin in this for them for it to be amazing because a lot of people are watching.
Yeah.
And we want to make sure that we are, having an experience for a student that's amazing, that they come out and they get past the NCLEX, they can be a great bedside nurse, because that's what we're trying to create is, nurses that want to come out and take care of patients, because there's so many opportunities for nurses today. So we're trying to create an environment where they can go back to school immediately. A BSN education and pathway is immediately available to them. And we're encouraging that.
Yeah.
But we really want to make bedside care appealing again.
For sure, yeah. So speaking of everyone watching, we have to talk about ROI, obviously. So what is the ROI for a program like this, and how can other CNOs make the case to their health systems for potentially starting a program that's similar?
So our ROI is pretty short, actually. 6 to 7 years that we should have a complete return on our investment. So after you do your first accreditation, you actually can get reimbursement from the government applying for financial aid that comes to the school. There's also GME reimbursement that is available and a lot of other funding sources. So the big is the capital outlay and some faculty. But the ROI by reducing agency, opening up beds, reducing turnover. I mean, it was really easy to show that. We were really fortunate. We had a facility, a building that we could renovate that was easily found. That's some of the burden the first year that people were looking for a building. We had a building that
That's
we could,
good.
yes,
Yeah.
that helped the timeline. And they're charging us pretty reasonable rent because it's owned by the, university and the health system. So that helps.
Yeah.
But it still was a $14 million outlay. And it really is going to be worth it. But the ROI is pretty quick.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so you mentioned, again, with all eyes are on your program. How do you kind of destigmatize a program like this? Because, I think historically people think of diploma programs and
Absolutely.
they don't think of, the best, top tier education. So how do you go about destigmatizing that?
Well, I think the proof's going to be in the pudding, right? I need to show, and there's a lot of pressure on us to show a quality nurse that passes the NCLEX. And it's really, we're doing a lot of studying on how they're doing. We're also doing some interesting things on admission. We're doing a caring index on their caring. And so I think it's going to, prove it, as they come out. But I've also been talking a lot to my academic colleagues that are skeptical of this. And as I've really talked to them about what we're doing, the rigor of the program, the things we're putting in place, some of them are starting to understand. I would tell you, though, people that are most excited about this are hospital administrators like me that remember diploma nurses being amazing. In fact, my last mentor was a diploma nurse. She mentored me to be a chief nurse. She became the president of a hospital. So diploma education does not limit you.
Absolutely.
So, right now, I always say this, if there was enough nurses, we wouldn't be doing this. But we are committed to it being very quality. But in 2 years when they're graduating, you might have to ask me to come back.
Absolutely, yeah. So speaking of 2 years from now, what does the future of this program look like?
So as I started to say how many students that we're taking in, we expect it to grow really fast, but we're already looking at expanding it. So WVU Medicine is 25 hospitals, and it's across the state of West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and we have one in Maryland. And so this is the central hub, and we're planning on expanding it very quickly. All the other hospitals want to do it. And so what we would do is replicate smaller versions called additional instructional sites. So we're already starting to plan to do that. But this year we have to get our accreditation and our full licensure. So right now we're in a provisional license. So I see this expanding very quickly. I think there's interest. That's the good thing that does my heart good, is our first class, 653 people applied for 24 slots.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of interest.
So people want to be a nurse and they don't have the means. And that just made me, when those applications came in, I thought it'd be like 100.
Yeah.
We called the day we broke the internet, like the system shut
like Christmas
down.
morning, yeah.
Right. And so, that's what I need to tell the naysayers. People want to become nurses and they can't. And the students that applied were very, very qualified, high, GPAs, and many of them had other degrees, so they couldn't use financial aid because they've used it all. And so we have a lot of students who, they have college GPAs and 3.5. So these are students that are bright, but they don't have the means or the ability to do it.
Absolutely, yeah. And then my last question for you is, do you have any advice for other CNOs who might want to attempt something like this?
I say, first of all, call me.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to share and all of our learnings. I think you have to hire somebody who's amazing. And the person I hired is really amazing. And she has a PhD in curriculum development and an enthusiasm. So I think hiring the right person really is critical. I did a lot of selling to all the CFOs before. I didn't have to sell my president, but I think a lot of CNOs would have to do that because you have to explain what you're doing, because most people don't understand the avenues that take nurses to take the NCLEX. And so a lot of education, and also assess your local environment. West Virginia was not thrilled about this. So I had to do a lot of talking and meeting with the state board and assuring people that we would do the right things. So I think that would be the first things is, engagement from your team, scoping out the local landscape, and then engaging with somebody that can help you figure it out. We actually had a consultant come in a little bit before I even partnered with BB. So I'm happy to share. And so
absolutely. Well, I'm personally very excited to see how the program goes, and we'll definitely have you back on for a follow-up.
Excellent.
When we can.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for having me.
Yes, and thank you so much to our audience for listening. Stay tuned for more.